Okay, so Ed, how did you get your start in music?
I've always liked music. Um, my first favorite band was the Beach Boys, and I still have kind of a high voice, but I used to have a really high voice when I was little, and I could sing all the a cappella parts, and I loved it. And I loved listening to the Beach Boys. I thought that their arrangements were about as perfect as music can get, and still I'm a big fan. My two favorite songs growing up were Sloop John B, which I still cover sometimes, and God Only Knows, which I'm not even going to try because that's outrageous. So I just always liked music, and my parents weren't musical, but they encouraged me in it. It took me a while to start doing my own thing, but it's always been a solace.
How old were you when you first started playing an
Playing,
instrument?
probably high school.
And was guitar your first instrument?
Guitar was my first instrument. Well, before that, this is kind of cheesy, but I love it. When I was like 10, I went to Colonial Williamsburg with my family, which, of course, is hotter than Hades there. I couldn't even believe it. But anyways, they had jaw harps, and it reminded me of like the Snoopy special. One of them where he puts his like food trough on his head, and he starts going around, and he's making these weird sounds. And so I actually played jaw harp first, and I used to, no matter what kind of music it was, like I could be listening to Nirvana, which I actually did, and I would have like jaw harp parts for Nirvana, believe it or not. So I did
From
that.
jaw harp to guitar.
Well, yeah, I mean it's what I'm good at with guitar is the rhythm parts, anyways, and so I get the rhythm part, and the jaw harp's basic, just rhythm and mouth control, which is not that bad.
So who were some of your, you mentioned some of the bands that you first were inspired by. Who are your biggest influences now?
Biggest influences now. Um, the person who made me want to start writing and really care about, especially lyrics, is Bob Dylan. I mean, I can't even state how much I'm obsessed with that guy. Another band which has more small little roots that get into my music, which you probably wouldn't hear, and it almost sounds weird to say it, but I really like the Pixies a lot. So I actually just downloaded a Pixies concert bootleg yesterday, and I'm kind of obsessive with those kinds of things. I love live music, and the Pixies just had something where they were very raw, but very. I don't even think I can put my finger on what they had, but they had it, and I love it. It's very different, and they certainly have a huge influence on me as well. I would say the Rolling Stones would be one, less so now than it used to be, but I used to really do a lot of the 70s Stones mostly. Radiohead. That's all I can think of. Ask me later.
So, talk about what it's like to perform your music for other people. How does it make you feel?
I love it. When I perform my music, like for instance, tonight I played a song that I wrote when I was really hurt by a girl that I met, and this is way before I met my fiance who I'm about to get married to. So I mean, it's weird. It's a weird emotion, but I think that your old, even negative emotions are something that you should be able to revisit, and it's a very it's cathartic for me to play. It's something that I feel I get into those emotions and I like it. Even if it's a negative emotion, there's something like getting back to it. And most of my songs I feel like writing when I'm negative, so I need to get more happy songs. But it's like when you're writing that stuff, it's cathartic just to get it out on paper, and then when you've developed it, when you're playing, you're re-feeling these things, and I love that. That's my favorite part. It kind of keeps history real, and I've always been kind of a history nerd, so it keeps my history real.
Cool. How would you describe your music? This is always a hard question for musicians to answer, but how would you describe it to somebody who hasn't heard it yet?
Um, I was at one point I was thinking about writing something, and I think it's for a card that I was going to give out. And and what I used as kind of a slogan, which I think is, I don't know, I'm not even totally sold. It might be a little cheesy, but I called it Roots Rubbed Raw. And the reason why I had that was because I really value the history that's in music, and so that's like when I was first into Bob Dylan. What hit me, usually people like the '66, like Blonde on Blonde era, Highway 61, which of course I love, and he developed to get there. But I really like his early stuff because it's old, but the lyrics are just so solid and they mean something. To me, my music, I try to make my music very, very poignant, and especially early on, very, very folky. But I also like strumming a couple times with a complete open, so it just sounds really raw. There's no chord happening, so it's a little bit shocking. Maybe that would be the kind of Pixies influence, but I like it to sound a little raw. But I also like the fact that it's something that's been handed down from generation to generation, and there's something very cool about continuing that, but also allowing for some modern innovation, I guess. It's kind of a nerdy answer. That's it.
Who supported you in your music over the years? You mentioned your parents getting you started. Who else has been supportive and important for you?
I've had friends who have been pretty supportive. I've had let me think. I mean, most of the time that I've had like solid girlfriends, they've been supportive, because at the time when I was in like grad school area, like by that time music was a huge part of me, and so if they liked me, they had to kind of like the music. Mm-hmm. Otherwise it probably wouldn't have worked. So that was a huge one. Girlfriends and just friends that I've met, people at open mics. It's been really cool. So I'd say friends from McMurphy's in Pasadena, which is no more, where I used to play all the time. I had a friend, Brad Jackson, I used to play together with. This guy from Kentucky who's like about as crazy a person as humanly possible. Perma drunk, perma stoned dude. And but there's something about his kind of Kentucky raw feel that worked well with my kind of California relaxed but raw feel. And he was pretty supportive as well. So. But yeah, now of course Ashley, my girl, the fiance, of course, has been very supportive. She's a graphic designer, so it's fun because I do a little bit of graphic design on my website. I designed it and all that, which it's fun to have someone who can, basically she can do what I take 8 hours on in like 20 minutes. But it's fun to have somebody who can, it's fun that we both kind of have an eye for that. So it's fun to look at that kind of stuff. And then she's also a musician, so we can kind of feel that part out too.
Anything else you'd like your fans to know about you?
My fans.
Or future fans,
future fans, whatever you want to call my fans. My fan base is broad, and it's hard to say what I'd say to them. I'd say that I appreciate anybody who takes the time to listen, because that's one thing that I found kind of difficult in LA, and when I came here I found up in the Bay Area now, people listen a little more up here, and when people could tell me why they liked my music rather than here's my card, I really appreciated that. And I think some of my music takes a little bit of listening to the lyrics, which I try to put in there, and almost sometimes it's a little hard to get to, but I think it's I really appreciate people who have taken the time to listen to it. And I hope that you appreciate it too.